After studying this module, we will be able to learn about the background and key constructs of spiritual counseling. To understand the major contributions of spirituality to the field of counseling and psychotherapy, and explain the counseling process involved in the spiritual approach, and examine the techniques, procedures and intervention strategies adopted by the spiritual counselor. Spirituality is the highest attainment of a human life. Every individual has its own definition of spirituality, stemming out of his or her connection with the sacred. With the present paradigm shift, spirituality is gaining great momentum and recognition across the globe in all the fields. The role of spirituality in counseling is relatively new and still emerging, as unfortunately in past the spiritual dimension of human behavior was not given much importance. Rather, pioneering figures in psychology totally rejected the concept. However, the growing consensus and awareness, the misconceptions are fading away and giving it way to emerge pervasively. There are many rich sources available with mankind that can help us connect with our spiritual roots, such as scriptures, spiritual guides or innate resources. Scriptures can be any sacred or religious writing books that give us knowledge about the path to spirituality, whereas spiritual guides are the leaders who show us the path towards spirituality. And finally, innate resources are those allowing a person to become spiritual entirely through one's own thought and action. In the present era, the spiritual counselors help us by guiding the path of attaining spiritual peace and harmony using various psychological principles and techniques. In this module, an overview of the spiritual counseling approach would be presented by examining the role of the counselor and ways in which the client is expected to contribute to the counseling process. As a counselor's job varies directly with the role of the client. Now it is time to turn our attention to the specific process of spiritual counseling and theories which currently dominate the field of counseling.
Process versus content. Yalom describes process in terms of underlying story, the one behind the literal content or facts being presented. As a habit of human behavior, one usually does not pay much attention to the underlying processes of a situation and comfortably accepts the expressed content. One never does attempt to understand the deep hidden meaning of the content or voice them out. This is one major area which is at the target of the counselor to help clients to analyze a situation than just being a passive recipient. For example, the following story was presented by a client during the counseling process. The other day, I was sitting all alone in a park, frustrated, sad, angry. I just wanted to be away from everyone I knew. I never wanted to go back to where I was coming from, to the same set of people I have known throughout my entire life, as I do not want to trust them anymore. I decide to sit and relax by the lake, soak up the sun, so as to refill my energy of life. The area was warm and comfortable, surrounded by sunlight falling on the ground after kissing leaves. I started observing the nature around me, feeling the pleasant breeze kissing my cheeks, blossoming flowers, birds playing, just lying down there looking up in the sky and observing clouds change their shapes. It all felt so warm and cozy that before I could realize, I was fast asleep. A sleep which I never enjoyed as beautifully in my past 30 years. If we focus our attention into the process of this example, then on the content, which is sitting in the nature and feeling its warmth, we will come to realize the process of healing of our nature. Why did this person feel all rejuvenated? How was he or she able to let go of all his or her worries and sorrows and sleep like an innocent, carefree kid? By tapping into this habit of analyzing, it is sure that one can uncover a lot of connections one has with the Supreme. The Tao and the paradox of control. Tao is the flow of life energy which is pervasively present and supports our existence. I'm sure all of us has experienced such times in which we feel in full control of our life situations. But the reality is something very different. These are the times in which our ego has taken over us completely and we are potentially heading for a crisis, as Tao can never be controlled. It is considered spiritual but not religious. The enlightenment in life can follow only when we surrender ourselves to the Tao, by discontinuing fighting the way out or path and letting go of what we cannot control and focusing on what we can begin to change. It is only one's feelings which we can control to some extent. Other than this feeling, a sense of control can be all false and non existent. It is typically when one is feeling most out of control that he or she attempts to behave in a manner so as to look in super control of themselves. However, if one learns to let go the control and surrender to the Tao, a sense of freedom and escalation can be experienced. Darkness before the dawn. As per the cycle of nature, the time before the dawn tends to be very dark. Try and observe this yourself if you ever happen to wake up that early. However, the moment the first sun ray appears, the darkness starts to set off, leaving a beautifully bright sky. Similarly, during worries, depression, and tensions, our life is similar to the period just before the dawn. It is when we give up the control and surrender to the Tao, the process of dawn starts and the darkness begins to move away. During these moments of darkness, the counselor attempts to therapeutically connect their spirits to that of the client, helping them move from despair, isolation, and hopelessness into hopefulness, connectedness, and joy. But this beautiful process will only occur when one surrenders oneself to the life energy completely. Relapsing client and spirituality. The success of a clinical intervention lies in the hands of both the client and the therapist. The therapist should be well oriented to the principles he or she follows, as well as sensitive enough to mold them according to the client's needs. At the same time, the client should be minimally as articulate, intelligent, and creative so as to comprehend the interventions being applied to them appropriately. Fulfilling these two basic conditions can produce remarkable changes in the life condition but do not still promise a sustained recovery. The period of combating stressors without the presence of a counseling session. If this dependence is not taken well into consideration, it can eventually lead to a relapse. Kurowski believes that individuals may have difficult time in maintaining a healthy phase if this recovery was limited to cognitive awareness. He contends that those individuals who are making changes cognitively, emotionally, physically, and spiritually have a better chance at remaining abstinent from similar problems. Thus, addressing spirituality is very important for relapse prevention. Addiction as a spiritual sickness. Everybody wants to receive as well as give immense amount of love, affection, and care to others who are connected with their lives. But a sick state of life can prevent them from doing so. As the thoughts become colored by negativity, perceptions become biased, and one, in a way, detaches oneself from the world. When this capacity is shaken, the state of one's life dips further deep, leaving one feeling lonely, sad, angry, and often misunderstood. The relationship of mind, body, and spirit is still very intricately organized around rising high from such states of life, but on only one condition, that is, surrendering to the life energy. Those who are able to surrender to a process, power, outside themselves can potentially experience a sense of peace, relief, and connection within them. Hence, ironically, it is a small surrender that really contributes to a sense of freedom and serenity, what we can call as being spiritual. It was until late 1970s that spiritual dimension of human behavior was not given the necessary importance it deserved in the field of psychology. In 1977, Angel proposed the three-dimensional model of human behavior, the biopsychosocial model, under the knowledge of which only unidimensional or bidimensional models were employed. In 1999, Weber further proposed five dimensions of human behavior: biological, psychological, social, moral, religious, or spiritual. It was unfortunate, but few pioneering figures in the field never considered the concept of spirituality significant enough. One amongst them was Sigmund Freud, who totally rejected religion and denounced it as pathological. He believed that people must disregard religion altogether if they want to behave maturely. However, we now know that human behavior is multidimensional. Humans are not only psychosexual or psychosocial, but they're also psychospiritual. The spiritual development is the ultimate human development. Spirituality as the fifth force in counseling. A force can be defined as a dimension or a perspective which has had a wide impact on the processes of a profession, such as counseling or psychology. In psychology, the psychodynamic, behavioral, humanistic, and multicultural are generally regarded as the four main forces. It was Abraham Maslow who identified and recognized first three forces of psychology. The fourth force, multiculturalism, was first named by Paul Pedersen. Despite opposition by many, as spirituality was considered as an offshoot to multiculturalism, spirituality did eventually attain its status as the fifth force in the field of psychology. And fortunately, it is gaining recognition as a strong force in viewing human personality. There has been an increase in the interest in spiritual matters, and this has been reflected in both popular and professional literature. Role of spirituality in human problems. Human problems can be broadly categorized into three main categories, namely, problems of the body, the mind, and the soul or life force. In addition, the human mind is capable of affecting both the body and the soul. Here, the psychosomatic problems, as we all know, refer to the problems which arise due to negative effect of mind on the body. The term psychospiritual relates to the disturbances arising due to disturbed relationship between mind and soul. Ultimate reasons for human problems. Ingersoll has developed a spiritual wellness inventory which can help in demonstrating that all problems are actually spiritual problems. He has proposed 10 dimensions in his inventory, including conception of the absolute or divine, meaning, connectedness, mystery, spiritual freedom, experience or ritual, forgiveness, hope, knowledge or learning, and present centeredness. With the help of this inventory, a person's problem in some way can be traced back to a person's spiritual well being. As without the feeling of connectedness, a person will feel lonely, depressed, isolated, etc. Assessing spirituality. Sandhu and Asrabadi have developed an empirically tested scale called the Experience-Based Spiritual Development Scale. To determine the current spiritual stage of their client, the counselors are encouraged to use this scale, which can also help them in preparing their client's psycho-spiritual profile to understand their counseling and spiritual needs. Goals of psycho-spiritual counseling and therapy. The ultimate goal of spiritual counseling, as we all know, is spiritual development. Therapy aims to enhance the client's awareness into it and help them take significant steps for the edification of their souls to achieve intimacy. Care of soul and cure of soul are the two additional concepts that are of great importance to the counselors and therapists. According to Shahs, cure of the soul is closely linked to a number of basic concepts such as wrongdoing, guilt, repentance, confession, conversion, and change of mind. Benner described it as an integration of the action and thought, conscious and unconscious, interior life and external behavior, and body and soul. Frame discussed the work of five different theorists who focused on the linear and hierarchical progress of people's religious or faith development. These theorists include Jordan Allport's theory of religious sentiments, James Fowler's stages of faith development, Michelle Washburn's stage of psycho-spiritual development, Fritz Ozer's stage of religious judgment, and Guanya's stage of faith. All these models are useful for counselors and psychotherapists because they provide a framework for understanding how clients develop religious or spiritual interests. However, they do have certain limitations as well, which can be enlisted as follows. First, spiritual development not necessarily follows the linear progression in sequential stages as mentioned in these models. Second, most of these models seems to minor Kohlberg's developmental stages or Piaget's cognitive development stages. And finally, they seem to have confused spirituality with religion. The following seven stages of spirituality was conceptualized by Morgan, in which religion may or may not play a role. However, these stages are experience-based stages of spirituality. First, scourge. Second, emerge. Third, purge. Fourth, diverge. Fifth, research. Sixth, converge. And seventh, merge. First, scourge. It is a stage in which a person's spiritual interests are dormant. At this level, the individual is mostly egocentric and is focused majorly on materialistic matters. Spirituality is of very little or no interest. It can be best described as a spirituality stage. Second, emerge. For some individuals, emerging from a major life event or trauma in the previous stage of surge can result in making one spiritual. At this stage, an awakening into the spiritual life can be facilitated by a spiritual teacher, guru, or a preceptor. In absence of a living guru, a scripture can serve as the source of the inspiration. This stage can be described as a transforming stage and can also facilitate further transformation to the higher stages. Spirituality becomes important for the first time for a person in this stage. Third, purge. This stage is characterized by individual rejecting materialistic and worldly pleasures. At this level, the individual changes its path. As spiritual concerns become more important than materialistic interests, a person makes conscious efforts to curtail and maintain certain daily habits such as lust, greed, anger, worldly attachments, etc., which act like barriers to the spiritual life. Fourth, diverge. Spiritual ascent is not steady or linear. A person might start experiencing divergence, leaving a spiritual path or going back to old materialistic ways of loving. There may be loss of interest in the spiritual matters during this stage. However, this setback is generally transitory. Fifth, research. During this stage, the individual comes back to the stronger spiritual understanding after having slipped or regressed or suffered a loss of interest in the previous spiritual journey. At this stage, it all becomes important once again, and a renewed interest is revived more vigorously. 6. Converge. Persons experiencing convergence are on a very deliberate and conscious spiritual path. Their spiritual beliefs, spiritual feelings, and actions are all in synchrony. He or she starts living his or her life proactively according to the special rules for living as required by the scriptures or by high moral standards. At this level, the person experiences great solace and satisfaction by balancing spiritual and materialistic matters. 7. Merge. It is the ultimate stage in spiritual development. There is emphasis on experience of union with the God or oneness. Life and death are both blessings. At this highest stage of spiritual realization, suffering and comforts are the same as they both come from the same Supreme Being. A person generally achieves the highest level of serenity at this level.
Let us summarize what we have discussed. The role of spirituality in counseling is relatively new and still emerging, as unfortunately in the past the spiritual dimensions of human behavior was not given much importance. Rather, pioneering figures in psychology totally rejected the concept. However, with growing consensus and awareness, the misconceptions are fading away, giving it way to emerge pervasively. The path towards spirituality is certainly guided by one's mentor. However, the spiritual transformation of an individual must transcend in its own personal manner. It is a process of understanding the underlying meaning behind situation one comes across in everyday life, then just to passively accept the contents we receive. This understanding will help us surrender to the Tao, the ultimate life force, without surrenderance to which one cannot begin one's journey towards spiritual growth. As the deep darkness before the dawn is illuminated with sunlight, similarly one's soul darkness will be illuminated on the path towards spirituality, the ultimate goal of which is to enhance the client's awareness and help them take significant steps for the edification of their souls to achieve intimacy and peace in mind, body, and soul. The success of a clinical intervention lies in the hands of both the client and the therapist. The therapist should be well oriented to the principles she or he follows, as well as sensitive enough to mount them according to the client's needs. At the same time, the client should minimally as articulate, intelligent, and creative so as to comprehend the interventions being applied to them appropriately. Everybody wants to receive as well as give immense amount of love, affection, and care to others who are connected with their life. But a sick state of life can prevent them from doing so, as the thoughts become colored by negativity, perceptions become biased, and one in a way detaches oneself from the world. When this capacity is shaken, the state of one's life dips further deep, leaving one feeling lonely, sad, angry, and often misunderstood. Seven Stages of Spirituality was conceptualized by Morgan, in which religion may or may not play a role. However, these stages are experience based stages of spirituality. The first stage is scourge. It is a state in which a person's spiritual interests are dormant. The second stage is emerge. For some individuals, emerging from a major life event or trauma in the previous stage of surge can result in making one spiritual. At this stage, an awakening into spiritual life can be facilitated by a spiritual teacher, guru, or a preceptor. The third is purge. This stage is characterized by individual rejecting materialistic and worldly pleasure. At this level, the individual changes its path as spiritual concern become more important than materialistic interest. And the fourth is diverge. Spiritual ascent is not steady or linear. A person might start experiencing divergence, leaving a spiritual path and going back to old materialistic ways of loving. Next is research. During this stage, the individual comes back to the stronger spiritual understanding after having slipped or regressed or suffered or loss of interest in the previous spiritual journey. Next is converge. Person experiencing convergence are on a very deliberate and conscious spiritual path. Their spiritual belief, spiritual feelings and actions are all in synchrony. And the seventh is merge. It is the ultimate stage in spiritual development. There is emphasis on experience of union with God or oneness. Life and death are both blessings.